In this lesson, we're going to cover the components that make up my overall bullet journal system, as well as the building blocks of the bullet journal itself. My bullet journal system has 2 analog components and 2 digital components. First, I have my actual bullet journal, an A5 dot grid book by Lecterm, and I also have a pocket-sized field notes book. For my digital tools, I use Google Calendar for scheduled events, and I also use Evernote as a digital notebook. Before we look at that extra stuff, let's zoom in on the bullet journal itself. My A5 dot grid Lecterm is dubbed my bullet journal, and it's made up of some building blocks that you'll utilize in your own book. The first piece is called the index. It lives at the beginning of the book and serves as a table of contents. This is the first bit of structure we lay down to make things easier to find later. The index also relies on numbered pages, which is why I prefer using this brand of notebook as they number the pages for me. If you have a different preferred notebook, you can simply number the pages at the beginning of the startup process. The next building block, or in this case called a collection or spread, is the future spread. This is a high-level overview of the months to come. It is not a thorough schedule or complete calendar list of everything in that month. It's simply a safe place to pop in future events for months that haven't arrived yet. I like using mine to keep an eye on birthdays, jotting down untimed or vaguely timed events, for example, when I generally like to take a vacation from work, and recurring projects, like my quarterly newsletter, which don't have set dates. I find the future spread to be really helpful when I'm doing monthly or weekly planning, and I want to see if there was anything I hoped to remember for that time period. The next component is the monthly spread, which I've broken into 2 functions. On the left, I have a log for the month where I note down anything worth remembering that happened. I have the date and the day, as well as the week number, because for some reason that's a meaningful number for me in tracking where we are in the year, more so than just the month. My monthly spread also usually includes some form of habit tracker, but I'll talk about that more when I show you mine in the next lesson. And the beautiful thing about being a log as opposed to a calendar is I'm able to cherry pick the best and most important experiences. When I was using a planner successfully, I was getting a lot of good stuff done, but I'd flip through the filled pages and it was hard to get a grasp on what I was actually doing beyond send email, psych appointment, deliver artwork to client. What about the new recipes we had tried or that game night we had where we laughed for 3 hours straight? I can't recommend the practice of a monthly log enough. But it isn't enough to just write down what we've been doing. The right side of the monthly log is a place for tasks and projects that I want to keep an eye on for the month. When I'm planning my week or my day, I always check out the monthly spread to see if I can make progress on anything listed. Next, we have the daily spread, which is a catch-all place to capture tasks, notes, inspiration, ideas, moments of mindfulness, and any and everything that's interesting to note down throughout your day. We'll discuss this more later, but I actually outsource my daily spread to a pocket field notes book. You do not need to do this. Yours can live right within your main bullet journal, but in either case, you'll need a place where you can title the page with today's date and allow life to happen as it does. The daily spread is special because it often collects things to be migrated to other parts of the bullet journal or migrated to the following day's spread, which you'll see in my journal in an upcoming lesson. Basically, the daily spread is temporary and really most helpful for storing things until they get put away where they're most helpful or relevant. The rest of your bullet journal will be made up of collections and spreads based on what you're adding to your book, which, as we've discussed, can be anything your heart desires. The deceptively simple function within each spread, though, is its title. When I was using notebooks before bullet journaling, I would utilize nearly every blank space to fill with writing or drawings, which meant each page was a hodgepodge of whatever thoughts had felt important enough to jot down. It also meant that I didn't have to take the time to ask myself what I was writing or why I was writing it down. The practice of naming spreads is the first practice in growing our discernment muscles. Now when I have a note to write down, I don't just flip to any old page and jot it down. I consider what it is I'm writing, and by giving it a name, I give it a purpose and a place to belong in the index. For example, coming across a recipe before meant simply noting it down somewhere, or emailing it to myself and hoping that I would remember to look for it the next time I was meal planning. Spoiler alert, I usually avoided meal planning and never made the recipe. Now, when I come across a recipe, I know to name the spread with meal planning. After all, that's what collecting recipes is. and then I can add the pages to the index under meal planning. Or, alternatively, I can easily find where I left off meal planning last time and add it to an existing spread if there's space. The point being, naming your spreads is powerful because it both asks you to discern the information you want to capture and also gives you a method to help organize it within the book's contents. Maybe later on I won't remember any of the names of the recipes that I wrote down, but it'll be very easy for me to find and locate the pages dedicated to food and meal planning in my bullet journal, increasing my chances that I'll find it and actually utilize it. As I've said, I'll show you my spreads in an upcoming lesson so you can see what I'm talking about. But for now, just know most of your bullet journal will be made up of your own custom spreads and notes, with monthly and possibly daily or weekly spreads punctuating the sections. One huge warning I would like to give you as it pertains to general spreads in your notebook is to not get deterred by the absolutely beautiful and ridiculously complex spreads that other people decide to make and then share on the internet. This is the number one pitfall I see with people getting excited to bullet journal, including myself when I first tried years ago. Artsy spreads are fine, there's nothing wrong with them, except for the fact that they can apply a lot of pressure and perfectionism. When in doubt, start with a basic list to get it out of your head and go from there. The system of the bullet journal is what's powerful, not perfectly drawn intricate spreads. So those are the big building blocks of a bullet journal: the index, future, monthly, and daily logs, and collections or spreads that contain the rest of our notes and plans and what have you. In the next lesson, I'll show you how pagination can make moving through our books even easier.